everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our big show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that are releasing this week. So if you head on over to infinityflux.net, you can place your orders right now. The books are up there while supplies last, and this is a big old week with some heavy hitters.
Yeah, I feel like we don't have as many to talk about
Yeah.
as we normally do, but the caliber of books is bigger.
Exactly.
I feel
Which
like.
I like. I like, either you get weeks with a bunch of stuff, but they're just,
Just
review
average, yeah,
issues. But then sometimes you get like there's three books coming out and they're all punch you in the
massive. Yeah,
chin.
right.
So that is one of these weeks. So let's get into it.
Yeah, we are going to start with the Ultimate Universe 1 year in one shot. This is written by Denise Camp and the artist by Jonas Scharf. And this issue introduces us to the Ultimate Universe's version of Hand. But this is not the red clad ninjas that you're used to from the 616 universe. The Ultimate Universe version of Hand is basically Shield from the 616 universe. And I'm talking like when Shield was at its peak.
Yeah.
Um, the only difference is they're not the good guys. They are not the good guys at all.
How this book starts is you see them do really
Yeah,
terrible
they do
things,
really terrible
but
things.
with the caliber of Shield.
Right. Now, they think they're the good guys, but they do those bad things, such as eliminating anyone, even regular people, who think they might be a threat to the Maker and his agenda. And Hand is led by Nick Fury. Now, I was going to say OG Nick Fury, but I didn't want people to think like, oh, 616 Nick Fury came over.
No.
It's not anything like that, but it is, original Nick Fury.
It looks like he's had the same past that original Nick Fury
That's right.
did during like the 60s and everything.
Yeah.
Because you see little glimpses of some pretty psychedelic adventures.
Yeah, for sure. And it does seem weird for Nick Fury to be leading this group of really bad people, but it is explained, how and why and all that stuff. So you will get that information. But the cool thing about this issue is it gives us our best look yet at the Makers Council. We have seen them all before. We saw them in the Ultimate Invasion series, and that's back when we didn't even really like what is going on. Who are these people? We didn't quite get
bits
it.
and pieces of them in their own books,
Yeah.
too.
But this is we've never spent that much time, or we've never spent this much time with them as we have in this book. And this is the most information that we've ever gotten about them before. And really, this whole issue is Fury's inner monologue, kind of talking about the state of the world, while he's also addressing the Makers Council, talking about Hand's efforts to find and stop the Ultimates, and also what Hand is doing to keep the rest of the world in line. And it's that part that I think is the most interesting, because we know, that this new Earth, this universe, it's a little bit screwed up, right? Like there's not even an America. Like there's all these territories that all the different council members control. So we know that it's a little bit screwed up. But this gives us a peek behind the curtain and shows us just how evil the Makers Council really is, and all the different ways that they are ruling the world with an iron fist, even if the regular citizens of the world don't even know it.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Like, because, in a lot of the books, like, in the pages of Ultimate Spider-Man, we see people going to this memorial, and people are walking around New York who have no idea what's going on. But this book shows us like, oh, they're doing this to make people more easily susceptible to suggestions and things like that.
Nefarious,
Yeah,
the kind of things they're doing in the name of we're doing something right. But yeah, you realize like this. You look at your other books like Ultimate Spider-Man, you're like, oh, like they're all under this spell basically that they've created for them.
Yeah, they have labeled the Ultimates as terrorists, which we knew from the Ultimate series, but we see how far they go to really drive home that narrative in this. Like this it's just really cool. We've never really seen this level of tomfoolery, I guess, in the new Ultimate Universe.
The nicest way
Right.
you could put that.
I will say that there is a surprise ending to this that I won't spoil for you, but it does help reinforce this feeling that I've had. We talked about it before about how in the world are the Ultimates gonna beat these guys and fix the
Yeah.
world? Like after reading Ultimates #6, where they got their butts handed to them by the Hulk and all of his goons, I was thinking, how are the Ultimates? How can they ever defeat this? And after reading this, I'm like, they are just like completely fighting
If
uphill.
anything seems like an underdog story,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, the Ultimates, even with all of their power, it's like you're nothing compared with
Yeah,
the
you're barely a
council.
blip. It almost seems like they're just an annoyance, really, to
Yeah.
to the Makers Council, really, than a big
They
threat.
kind of act like that. They're like, this is the first time they don't really all meet together very often.
Right.
And when Nick Fury tells them about all this stuff, they're like, you could have done this over a call
Yeah.
or something. Like,
This could have been an
really
email.
do not care.
Yeah, for sure. So it's just really cool. Now it does not set up. I thought it was going to set up like some big thing that the Ultimate books were going to be dealing with in the second year, which is going to kick off next month. The Ultimate books have been around for a year now. The second year kicks off in January, and at the end of that year, that's when the dome is going to open. And I thought this was actually going to set up something for that second year that the books are going to face, and it doesn't really do that at all. But it's still a wildly interesting book because, like I said, we see just how dastardly these guys are, and to a level that I didn't know. I didn't know it was that bad for sure. And there's also a 4-page prologue to Ultimate Wolverine #1 in the back of this. That book comes out next month, and it was just cool to see that. Where that's going. So very cool.
And you do there's a little moment in the regular story that plays into that to the Ultimate Wolverine story, so you can kind of see the connective tissue there. I also think it's really interesting in this that I won't say there's first appearance of Ultimate characters, but you see even more of well, where's this character? Where's this character? A lot of them have been killed over the years.
Yeah.
And you see how that happened, and characters are oh my gosh, they've done horrible things.
Yeah.
And that's why so many key characters are not there anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I mean, these guys are evil. I mean, it's not just they're scene chewing bad guys. These guys are evil, and we knew that before. But after this, it's holy cow, these guys. This is just the worst of the worst. So I thought this was wildly interesting. If you're a fan of any of the Ultimate books, I highly recommend picking this one up because we just get so much information.
World building,
yeah, and it just gives us such a broader picture of this world. So we have this A cover right here, and there are a bunch of variants. We have a Frank Miller, the Maker variant. We have this Peach Momoko variant, which Spider-Man and Black Cat do not show up in this, but they're on this cover here. We have this Marco Cicchetto cover right there, and that's your Ultimate X-Men, right? Yeah, that's really cool. I believe this one is Stefano Caselli right here, and that's the Makers Council. And holy cow, yeah, those are evil guys. I did not get the artist's name for this one, but that is your Ultimate Black Panther cover right there. He's also not in this. None of the heroes are in this. This is all about Nick Fury and the Makers Council.
Right.
So this, I don't have the artist on this one either, but I believe this is a connecting cover, right? Yeah, with a lot of the other ones that we've had. And this is our Alessandro Capuccio. This is the spoiler variant, although I don't really know why, because this was announced, a good while back.
Yeah, it's not a spoiler that we're getting a Ultimate Wolverine, because
Right.
we've already placed our orders for it.
Yeah, we placed the orders. It was already on FOC. There was an animated trailer, all that stuff. But a very cool cover nonetheless. And then we have this 1 in 100 Frank Miller, the Maker Virgin variant that we are selling for $89.99.
Yeah, so needless to say, I think definitely if you're reading Ultimates, the Ultimate,
For sure.
this this goes maybe closest hand to hand with that.
Yep.
And then, but if you're reading, Ultimate X-Men, things from that are referred to.
Yeah.
And Viper's in this, who's in that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of connective tissue in this with all 4 of the Ultimate books. There's a little bit of mentioning of what's going on in Africa with Wakanda and Ra and Khonshu and all that stuff. But yeah, definitely the Ultimates. They refer to events that happen in the Ultimates most. So
yeah, and maybe I thought it was interesting who was behind different things that they fought against.
Yeah.
It's oh well, you tried that and it didn't work, and you did this and it didn't work. And it's oh, it's really interesting to see they really are orchestrating behind the scenes all of the stuff the Ultimates are running into.
Just really fascinating. I mean, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Well, next up for me is a big one, but let me preface this. So we're going to be talking about Superwoman Special. This is a one-shot from DC. Now, here's the rub. Literally. All of our copies of the A cover came in damaged. It's a ink problem.
Yeah, not physically. There's no creases or anything. Right. It's not like that.
There seems to be maybe something wrong with the ink that was used for them. It's looking like it's rubbing off. Even our bags and boards, you can, I don't know if you can tell in here, not really, but there's some black streaks on there, and the back of the book, there's a lot of
if you can see on the spine over on that side,
ink issues. So we should be getting replacement copies. I'm not sure how soon those will come in, but usually when you turn them in as damages, you will get them
Yeah.
quicker than if you just ordered something straight up.
Yeah, and Lunar's already been notified, like they're
Yeah.
coming for sure. That's already been taken care of. We just don't know when they'll show up.
Right. So this one will be, not this week for the A covers. If you ordered a variant, you should be getting those. We've got an incentive to talk about, but we wanted to talk about this since this is the week of release of this book. And we do have some of the damaged copies up on our website for a discounted price because of the damage. If you really want to read it, there's nothing wrong with the inside of the book.
The inside, yeah, the insides are totally fine.
Insides are totally fine, so just keep that in mind as we're talking about this. But yeah, now getting into it,
Yep.
this is an awesome book.
Yep.
So this is by your Superman writer Joshua Williamson, with art by Edwin Gallman, Laura Braga, and Nicola Shimezu.
Sizmeja.
Yeah. Oh, it's in on the wrong vowel.
I had to Google it.
Okay. So we had, what issue was it with Doomsday's?
19 and 20.
19 and 20. So
I guess Superman number 19 was the first one
yeah,
where we saw Lois like flying. I'm like, what's going on
and
here?
there was no setup to this. It was, you had absolute power that ended, and then this started, and Superman and Lois both in full costume, flying together, everything. And they really did not tell you anything. I think they referred to like this issue in that. Well, in this issue, you have Lois, and Lois, is now head of the Daily Planet. Perry, who used to be her boss, is now running for mayor. And
he is mayor. He
is mayor. Yeah. So, he's out of the picture. The interesting thing that happens in this is Lois kind of misses having Perry to bounce ideas off of. She's really hit a writer's block. And while she's trying to write, Kara, Supergirl, and Lana Lang, who is the other Superwoman, shows up and are like, hey, do you want to go out? She's like, no, I got a lot of work. It's like, do you want to go out and like be superheroes? She's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So in this interaction, they basically say, well, you used to pitch your ideas to Perry, and that's how you kind of worked out your stories. Why don't you pitch it to us? And that's where we get the story where Lois tells them at least everything she knows about what happened, becoming this new Superwoman, which goes all the way back to during Absolute Power and her getting the suit that was like Lex Luthor's, like superhero suit and everything that we saw during that. But now we're getting it from her perspective. And then what happened after all the heroes started to get their powers back. There's the thing that happened where different heroes got their powers swapped. That's a key thing in this because Lois has superhero powers. She's got Superman powers. And what's also really fun about this is you've got that kind of setup story, and then you see kind of her revealing to different people that she's got these powers. So she goes to Terrific with Mr. Terrific and the Atom, and they test her because everyone's worried like these powers could expire.
Right.
If you got these powers from this suit, they could run out at any time. But you also see when Clark shows back up after his adventures in the Phantom Zone, which is going on during Action Comics, you see her reveal like her powers to him, and Supercore helps her with it. It's all really cool of this like all the procedures she goes through to like check in on why she has these powers and everything. But it all seems pretty straightforward. It all seems like, okay, this makes sense for the most part.
Yep.
But there is a big, shocking final, almost an after the credits scene.
Yeah.
That takes this from being a book of like, this is how Superwoman got her powers to, I think this is going to be maybe our next year's Superman story.
Yeah. Or at least our next big story. Yeah. They're setting up something that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's maybe in something that was referred to in something previous from,
Oh,
Skinny
yeah,
Doomsday.
yeah.
So we'll have to see.
You're right.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that. Oh,
what this could be
okay.
leading to is pretty major.
Ooh,
so
that's awesome.
I'm very excited for everyone to check this out when they can check it out because it is great. This I recommend to if you're reading Superman. That's kind of the most essential like companion book to this.
Yeah.
But it's
Which,
also,
if you're not reading Superman, what are you doing with your life? Everybody should be reading Superman. It's so good.
because you can definitely jump in to Superman with those last two
Yeah,
issues
19 and
and
20.
this, and you'll be good to go
Yep.
forward through the next year of Superman stories. The art in this is fantastic. The way it's broken up into kind of different time frames where you see different stuff going on. Like, one part is when John, Lois's son, learns that she has superpowers, and there's a cool little fights that are going on during it, because as she's telling the story, they're saving people and going through different situations and rescuing people out of burning buildings, and that's all really, really cool. So, very I say pretty important book if you are reading Superman, because this is, I feel like, gonna propel the Superman book into some future storylines. But like we said, we will be getting replacement copies of it. If there's any covers available on the website, definitely check those out. All the information will be there as well. But if you pre-ordered it, you'll be getting your copy, just not immediately.
Yep.
But they're on their way. So that is our Superwoman Special A cover, which this one, it kind of looks like it's raining on it because of all the little ink dots that are missing. So
it's hard to tell on the screen, but if you were holding the hand, you would see all these little nicks.
Yeah, there are
like
little
all these
nicks
little
or
white spots.
or whatever on the cover. So that was our A cover, and we also have this Mark Spears 1 in 25 that we're selling for $64.99. Mark Spears stuff has been really hot lately.
And that is not damaged.
No,
Just
this
to put
one
it
is
out
not
there.
damaged.
That's not
It was
damaged.
only the A cover that was damaged. So if you had pre-ordered a variant, you'll be able to get that this week, no problem.
All right, well, next up we have Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #1, and this is written by Christoph Gage, and the art is by Eric Gapster. And the cover here says that this is a prequel to the upcoming Disney Plus series of the same name. But it's more like it runs alongside the episode, the series, which doesn't premiere until the end of January 29th. So this issue starts right when the spider bites Peter. The spider beats
Spider
yeah.
beat. Spider just goes and
Punches
starts plunging.
It starts right when the spider bites Peter, and I'm assuming that we see where that spider comes from in the first episode of the series, because when this starts, it's already on his neck and it bites him right then. And it's pretty familiar territory for anybody who knows Spider-Man's origin. The bite makes him feel funny and allows him to do things that he doesn't even realize he's doing. Like, his spider sense alerts him of something and he jumps out of the way, but he doesn't even really kind of realize that he did it. So not a whole lot of new ground there. But he does meet Nico Minoru, who is popping up everywhere. She's in Ultimate X-Men. Well, I guess she's not really in the 616, or is she?
No, that was Surge. That was in X-Force.
That's right.
She was in something recently, though.
That's what I thought. I just read the Young Avengers Omnibus, and she was in there for a little bit with the Runaways when they teamed up. Yeah. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But Nico Minoru is in this. I don't know if she's going to be in the show or not, but it does seem like she's going to be Peter's, partner in crime, his little buddy doing mischievous things in this series at least. And while they're talking outside of Midtown High, and it's right after Peter gets bitten by the spider, they're outside of Midtown High, and there's an explosion. It doesn't really blow the building up, but it's almost like an explosion in a lab, and it blows the window out of the lab, and causes a good bit of damage to the surrounding area in the school. Well, Peter and Nico decide to go to the school that night and investigate the explosion, what happened to it. But they run into some trouble by the people who caused that explosion. And it's here that we first see Peter's new powers on display, because there's some goons in there, right? They're trying to finish the job or whatever it is. And we don't have the full details yet. I'm assuming that that's going to come in this and also in the series when that comes out. But, again, it's Peter doesn't really realize what he's doing. He's flipping out of the way and he's throwing guys through a wall, but it's all kind of reflexive. He doesn't really know what he's doing yet. So there's a little bit more in this issue than what I'm telling you. I just don't want to spoil it. But this doesn't really stray too far away from what we already know of Spider-Man's origin. But it's still a fun story, and it really made me want really made me want to watch the series when it comes out. I was already going to watch it anyway. But seeing this, just made me extra excited for it. The artwork in it kind of matches what they're going for in the animated series. It's more cartoony. It feels like what we get in the 90s of like the Batman animated the new adventures, or the what was it called? The Batman animated comic.
Batman
The Batman
Adventures.
Adventures, yeah, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
Or I think we got like the Spider-Man, we got the X-Men animated tie-in comics. Like it feels like that, where the art kind of matches more the show. But still really cool. So if you're excited for the show, or you just want a new Spider-Man book, then definitely check this one out. So there's our A cover right there, and we have, I want to say this is I want to say this is Luciano Vecchio, maybe right there. A nice homage to Amazing Fantasy 15. This is the really cool Inhyuk Lee variant. And then this is our, I don't have the ratio on this, but it is an incentive variant, and we are selling this one for $19.99.
I know there's one variant too that's like the animation variant is all they called it.
Um,
So it might be like a screen cap.
I think it's that one.
Yeah,
I think that's the animation variant.
which is also a nice homage.
Yeah. Oh, is that Romero? I think. I should have written the names down. I apologize for that, but I think that's the animation
Oh, you
variant.
should be sorry.
Yep. And my apologies to the artists. I know they're all watching.
They're all watching right
I
now.
apologize.
And that artist just stood up and walked away.
That's right.
Well, next up,
Threw his computer through the wall.
I have a new book. This is Laura Kinney, Wolverine #1. So Laura Kinney is back with her own series. This is written by Erica Schultz, and the art is by Giada Belviso. And this is really interesting. So this definitely feels like, for a little bit of it, it runs parallel with the stuff that's going on in NYX, because we saw her in there for a little bit. She's kind of pops in, pops out of that series. But in that, it's kind of about mutants just living their lives in New York and all that entails. Where Kamala's there and Sophie Cuckoo and all of that. But for Laura Kinney, she was basically made to be this like machine. She's a hunter. She's Wolverine, and she thrives when she's on a mission. She's behind enemy lines, that kind of stuff, and not necessarily just being a normal teenager in the city. Well, you can tell she's having some issues with that as she's hanging out with some of her superhero friends. But as they go past the tree that was the tree house where the X-Men had one of their bases, is kind of like a watchtower
Yeah.
type thing for them. They notice a mutant there, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we got to go help them." And this mutant has purple skin, but as soon as they try to interact, she runs away. And as the other girls go, "Okay, well that was weird," and go off, Laura Kinney notices she smells something and learns that the girl left behind a note, and the note basically explains that her younger brother is a mutant and has certain abilities, and he's been taken because of these abilities. And now Laura Kinney has a mission. So this kind of leads her on. What they describe in this series as a whole is kind of a globe-trotting series, or this is pretty much a one and done story where she now has the mission where she is going to find this missing child and shut down the people who have taken him. And through that, you've got a lot of action as she goes kind of place by place, asking people different stuff, kind of going into a creepy club and then following the goons outside from there and all of that. But the other big thing that happens in this is before she really gets going, she does run into a someone who's basically like, "Hey, you're a mutant. I've got a place called the Oasis that you can be safe in." And Laura Kinney's like, "How do you even know I'm a mutant?" And she's like, "Well, that's my mutant ability, is I can see mutants," which I thought was a pretty interesting thing, and I could see where that she could be taken advantage of by some bad people. But this doesn't really go anywhere in this one, but I feel like that's going to be a bigger part of this story, that we only just get the little bit of info in this, and maybe some supporting characters that will play a bigger part going forward. But the art was great in this. Like I said, there's a lot of action. It's great for an issue 1 that you see, her with her blades out, going to town, fighting a bunch of different people, and it is kind of a one and done story. That the thing that was set up with the note and the missing boy and all that pretty much comes to a close at the end of it, and we even see what her next adventure is going to be. That I'm really excited to see because it involves another Marvel character in a cool way. So If you are a fan of X-23, Laura Kinney Wolverine, you'll definitely enjoy this. And I'm excited to see where it goes because a lot of this is kind of set up of like what's she going to be doing in this series and kind
Right.
of laying the groundwork of that. And then as we go forward, I want to see the kind of adventure she gets into and all
Hmm.
that. So that is your A cover. We also have, in case you were wondering, what her name is and what her call sign is. There you go. We also have this awesome J. Scott Campbell cover with a more kind of classic NYX X-23. We have this really nice lyrics foil cover. And lastly, we have a 1 in 25. I believe this is a Kale New variant
Yeah.
that we're selling for $19.99.
Next up, we've got Batman Dark Patterns #1, and this is a new, I believe, a 12-issue series. I believe this is the series where it's 12 issues, and it's going to be 4 different cases that Batman solves across 3 different issues.
Okay.
I believe this is the one that's doing that. So this is written by Dan Waters, and the art is by Hayden Sherman. So we're seeing Hayden Sherman blowing up on Absolute Wonder
Yeah.
Woman right now. And this is set in Batman's 3rd year of being Batman. And this story starts with Batman arriving at the scene of this gruesome murder, and it's the 3rd such murder in as many nights. And it's clearly the work of a serial killer. And Lieutenant Gordon is there, because again, he's not the commissioner yet. Lieutenant Gordon is there, along with Gotham's new forensic pathologist, a man named Dr. Sareka, who is clearly very, very smart. He's good with all this kind of weird forensic stuff, but he's also a little bit off, and Batman doesn't trust him. We don't see much of him in this issue, but they make such a point to show how he is a little bit off, and Batman, states his distrust. So I think that's going to come back later in the series at some point. But after this sequence, after he goes to that murder scene, the issue becomes a murder mystery, and it's really cool. Batman is using his detective skills, and that's actually what this is. This puts Batman's detective skills at the forefront. There is some
Mm-hmm.
action stuff, but he tries to find a link between all 3 of these victims that have been killed across 3 different nights, and there were consecutive nights too. And he tries to find the commonality between them so that he can find the 4th victim before the serial killer gets to him and try to protect him. And there's a little bit more to this at the end that I'm not telling you. I don't want to spoil it, but this is really cool. It's a no frills issue. It's just Batman at night doing detective work, researching these people who were killed and what connects them all together.
You mentioned that it feels very much like the '90s Legends of the Dark Knight
Yeah, it
series,
really
which was just
does.
kind of like here's just a bunch of Batman stories and
Yeah,
different villains and different
yeah.
missions.
Yeah, it was really cool. I love detectives, like when I love Batman stories where he's really using his detective skills,
Mm-hmm.
but we actually don't get a whole lot of that. It's usually like fighting bad guys with gadgets and calling the Justice League and all that. But here he's really really investigating, and it's like I said, it's early days Batman 2, year 3 for him. It was just really cool. So if you like, I know there's people out there too that love those kinds of detective
Mm-hmm.
stories, and if that's you, I think you're really going to dig this. The artwork has that sort of um, kind of like street level, kind of grimy feel.
Gotham is really like really tall and imposing
Yeah,
buildings,
yeah.
and the Batman in this has the yellow chest symbol, so
It's just like that's big
it's
and
it's
round,
a
and
high contrast between his dark suit and
yeah,
his yellow utility belt and his yellow chest symbol, which I thought visually very striking
yeah, yeah.
version of
The artwork
Batman.
looks great for it. Batman does look a little bit younger because he is a
Hmm.
little bit younger in this. And again, it's a murder mystery detective story, and it's awesome. I really really enjoyed it. So there's our A cover right here, and that is the only one that we have.
Well, next up for me is one of the other books I got to read this week. This is Star Wars Battle Jakku Republic Under Siege #4. This is your final issue of the Republic Under Siege uh, part of this 12-part story where it's been broken up. And we're about to enter, probably in about 2 weeks. I think this comes out every 2 weeks, into the final issues. This is part 8. So we're heading into the last chunk of this story. And you can tell where it's going now. All paths are leading to Jakku. It's actually now they've mentioned it that there's the idea that that could be where their final showdown with the Empire is going to take place. Plus, in this, I love to see all the characters are back together, and we have our big villain in this, Adelhard, and he's been kind of a wild card as he's trying to find different people to join his new empire that he's trying to bring back after Return of the Jedi. And Luke is like, we really need to do something about this, but our resources are really low. There's a meeting between him and Leia and Admiral Akbar and Mon Mothma. And Luke says, well, what if I take just a really small group and we go in and deal with Adelhard? We don't need the entire fleet. It's going to be dangerous, but I think this is, kind of what we need to do. And so that is part of it, is him and his team going up against them. But on the other hand, Adelhard and his new empire that he's building is very unstable. He's surrounded by people that may or may not be working in his best interest. And I will say, by the end of this issue, someone new may be in charge of this fledgling new empire that he was trying to build. Now I don't want to say it's more complicated than that, but it is a very interesting, and leading into this last part is going to be really, really cool. So that is your A cover for that, and that is the only cover I have.
Well, I've got a cool holiday book that's also very spooky. This is EC's Shiver Suspenstories. And in this one, there are 6 different stories. And the first story is the one that connects them all together, because it is about, and that one's written by Hunter Goranson and the artist by Valeria Berzo. And that story is the one that strings all the rest of them together, because it's about a mother reading these stories to her kids. And it's horrifying because
Yeah.
these stories are messed up, like they're horror stories, right? And it's cool because at the beginning of it, she tells her kids that Santa is coming. It's Christmas Eve. It's very exciting. But instead of telling them that, I wrote down, instead of telling them a jolly story of a magical fat man who rides a sleigh pulled by reindeer, she makes it sound like he's some kind of demon riding beasts who's going to break into their house and do something horrible to all the naughty children. So she's like, we have to prepare, we have to get ready for him, and we're gonna stay up all night. And to do that, she's got this big book, and she reads them all these other stories that are all the other stories in the book. There is a story by Jason Aaron in there. There's Ben H. Winters, Jay Stevens are some of the other ones. So it's another one of these, just a one shot, but it's another one of these. Like the Epitaphs from the Abyss, where it's just like anthology horror
Mm-hmm.
stories, but with a Christmas theme as well. And the last story in this, before it comes back to the main story, it's called Two of a Kind, and it's written and drawn by Johnny Craig, and it was originally published in Vault of Horror number 26 back in 1952.
Wow.
And I think maybe this is the first time it's been reprinted or collected. But yeah, just a very cool, I love reading holiday themed books, but I still love my horror anthologies as well,
Mm-hmm.
and this is both of those. So if you like those, definitely check this out. There's our A cover right there, and unfortunately, I don't have the artist's name on any of these ones either. Is that That's Adam Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
That's an Adam Hughes cover right there, and we have this. I don't have the ratio on this. Oh, this is Oh, I can't remember the guy who does the book from Oni.
I just want to watch you flounder.
Shit, we just talked about it. I'm sorry. We're selling this one for $9.99. It's the one with the cute little kids.
Yeah.
But it's like there's like murder and stuff.
Yeah.
I should have written that down. And then there's another one we have for $16.99. This is the black and white version of this. And I meant to bring it back here. There's also a Creep Show holiday special coming out
Okay.
this week as well, and it's just 2 stories. Just like each issue of Creep Show always is. Each issue of Creep Show always is,
Issue.
but with a holiday twist to it as well. So if you like your holiday theme horror anthologies, you get 2 different books this week.
Well, next up for me is Amazing Spider-Man. I need to write it down. Issue 63. So here's the thing about this. I was gone all weekend at a convention, and I did not get a chance to read as many books as Matt did. So I had to cram as many as I could in today.
Well,
But
and full disclaimer, our Marvel books didn't come in until today as well.
right.
So you and I didn't get the chance to read all the ones that we needed to.
I just wanted everyone to feel bad for me and be like, well, Matt should have done
What
that.
I mean, no, I read as much as I could.
I did get a chance to skim through this issue of Amazing Spider-Man. I did not get a chance to read it as in depth as I would like, but I would like to uh, sit down and read this one because it seems really cool.
Yeah.
This one is written by Justina Ireland, and I say it's Gleb Melkinov that is doing the art. And we're still dealing with the Cyttorak story and everything as Spider-Man is working his job for Doctor Doom, trying to shut down all of these demons. But in this one, it looks like he is going up against one that can make him relive and see traumatic moments from his past, and that does include like the death of Gwen Stacy and some other ones as well. I won't get into all of them, but it seems really cool. I can't wait to read it. Plus, there is kind of a hint to something that is coming up soon that involves another Marvel property
Mm-hmm.
that is going to get pulled into this story, which makes complete sense. And now I can't wait for that because
Yeah.
it's if it plays out the way I hope, it's going to be incredible. So
It could be like a modern day retelling of another classic Spider-Man story.
yes.
Maybe. We'll have to see.
So I can't wait to read this. It looks great, but want to let you know that the next issue of Amazing Spider-Man is out, and that is the only cover I have for it.
Dwellings is the book I was thinking
Dwellings.
of. Yeah. It's
You've redeemed yourself.
yeah. I don't remember the creator's name though, and I feel so bad about that. All right, so next up we have Doll Parts, A Lovesick Tale #1. This is written and drawn by Luana Vecchio, just like the original Lovesick 7-issue series was. That I think came out last year, maybe it ended early this year. I don't quite remember the time frame, but it's fairly recent. And this is a prequel to the Lovesick series. And you know, our main character from Lovesick was Domino. She's this dominatrix. It's kind of hard to talk about in a YouTube video because it was so messed up. You know, I
Yeah.
don't know what'll get flagged or whatever, but in the original Lovesick series, Domino's life was pretty messed up, and there was not a lot of information, but there were mentions of how she had a kind of a messed up life. There were flashbacks to when she was a little bit older of a teenager, maybe 16 or 17 or 18, where she was half abducted but also half ran away and wasn't interested in trying to get away
Yeah.
and wasn't interested in trying to get back to her parents, and her parents never filed a police report because they essentially hated her, and
Yeah.
that was addressed a little bit in the main series. This series shows us how she got to that point in the first place. So in this, she is 12 or maybe 13, and her name is, I believe it's Madeline. I didn't write that down either for some reason. But you know, she's a normal girl. She's in ballet, but we kind of see this strained relationship already between her and her mother, and her father is there too, but he doesn't ever really back her up with her mom. He just kind of goes along with whatever the mom says, and it just shows us like her first experience seeing a dead body in real life, her first experience seeing these terrible things online, and the pressures that her mom puts on her to be this excellent ballerina. Just this whole like death by a thousand cuts kind of thing.
Yeah. Where you can see how she becomes
Yeah,
this entity that she is later.
that's
It
exactly
almost
right.
seems like inhuman to some
Yeah,
extent.
for sure. So I don't remember how long this is going to be, but throughout the course of this miniseries, we are going to see how she gets to the point of her parents hate her and they don't care if she gets abducted, and she doesn't care if she gets abducted. She doesn't want to go home. So it's going to lead us all down that path. So if you liked the original Lovesick series, you're definitely going to love this because it fleshes out the character of Domino from the original series a little bit more. And the A cover here is the only one I've got.
Next up, I have Transformers issue number 15. I didn't take any notes on this one, but it's a really cool, straightforward issue. I did get a chance to read this one just minutes before the show. But this one, it feels like we're kind of entering into a new, not year of Transformers, but, uh, we had the big thing with part of Cybertron crashing into the ocean. And now we are getting some of the like fallout from that as we know that's going to be a big part throughout the Inner John universe. They've even kind of seems like they've mentioned it, or we saw what I think is it in GI Joe and all of that. But the Decepticons once again are on a they're 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 not very well organized, especially since they don't have Megatron. You've got Starscream is not there, or Starscream is there, but it was who got really well. Starscream will be there. We'll say
Yeah.
that. But that's a whole different thing. If you know what was that in where we saw him and his tank.
Well, that was the issue. That was the two issues before this one.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was like the backup, the backstory for a lot of Starscream.
Yeah.
So, in this, the Decepticons are kind of leaderless and they're just going on a rampage. And what's great about this is it's once again classic Optimus Prime, who's like, "Hey, it doesn't matter. We don't have a lot of us left. We don't have a lot of energon. We don't have any of that. But our job is to go protect people because even they're like." Well, I mean, they're humans. Do we really, they're attacking us. Do we need to protect them? And of course, Optimus is like, yep, it's our job to go out there and protect them and try to stop these Decepticons. Even though the humans, once Optimus shows up, just turn on him. Like,
Yep.
They don't see the difference between.
Yeah, they're giant robots, and yeah.
Yeah. To them, it's and the whole time Optimus is trying to, be like, we're here to help, all of that,
Yeah.
but it's not working well. The other story that's going on in here is Cliffjumper, who is now back on Cybertron, and he at first is like, "Oh, I'm back home," all this, only to learn Cybertron has gotten maybe even more brutal than it was before, and he's kind of horrified by the things he sees. And then I don't want to give too much away, but the ending, there is another big character reveal. You can see the silhouette here, but we won't get into that because you've got to check it out. It's a final page big thing that is awesome. So, another great issue of Transformers. That is your A cover. And we've got some variants. We have this 1 to 25 EJ Sue variant that we're selling for $14.99, which is cool, like Starscream with blueprints.
Yeah.
I love that.
Schematics.
Yeah. And then we also have this 1 in 10 Carl Kerschel variant that we're selling for only $5.99, which is very cool. What's his name?
Carl Kerschel.
Who punches the ground?
Rumble.
Rumble, yeah.
Well, there's two of them, I think, if I remember correctly, but the purple one there, I believe, is Rumble.
Yeah. Well, we saw him in a previous issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rumble, and I want to say maybe Frenzy. He was like black and red, I think. I remember there were two from the Transformers movie in '86. I just don't remember the name of the other one. All right, so I've got Infinity Watch number 1 right here. I don't have any notes on this. This is one that I read right before we started recording. But this is the new series that follows on the heels of the Infinity Watch storyline that ran through I think like 8 or 9 different annuals.
It went on for a long time.
It went on for a long time, yeah. And so now, as that storyline ended and is rolling into this, where now all of the stone bearers of the Infinity Stones, they're now basically a team, but they're a pretty dysfunctional team. They don't all necessarily get along. Some of them do, but some of them don't. But they also don't know like what they're supposed to do. It's like they have this base that Star makes for them because she can basically bend reality to her will. So she makes them this big base on this island, and they're like, "Sweet, we have a base. Now what?" And so they're because they're all still new at being heroes, and some of them don't even want to be heroes. But all of this is new to them. But they do get their first thing that they have to deal with when this group of bad guys shows up in New York, and these guys have to go take them on. But there's a reason why those guys, those bad guys, and they have a name. I don't remember. It's a kind of a weird spelling. But there's a reason why that group of bad guys, kind of aliens, show up, and they're actually after them, and they're actually after the power that they possess. And there's a whole story there, and there's a reveal at the end with this new character, and he's seems like he might be a good guy, but also might have plans of his own. And if the Infinity Watch gets in his way, he'll just mow over them as well. So yeah, if you read that storyline through the annuals of this year, and you want to keep going with these characters, then definitely pick this up. I want to say this is an ongoing, or it might be like a 6-issue miniseries. I don't have that information, but yeah, just all of this character. And Coulson is here, and he is now the stone bearer for the new Death Stone, and we see him utilize that a little bit in this as well. So yeah, really cool. So if you enjoyed that story, definitely don't miss this. And that's the only cover.
Deathstone sounds like a 90s RPG
Yeah.
fantasy
Right.
game. Okay, next up, one that I did not get a chance to read because, like we said, our Marvel just came in today, and it brings up a point I also want to make. So the distributor Diamond, which handles Boom and Dynamite and Distillery, all
Yeah,
of that,
Titan. Yeah.
Titan, have been pretty delayed. If you're at your local comic book store, you may have seen that they're a few weeks behind. Some don't have any from 3 weeks. All of that. So there's a reason why we're not going over any Boom books or Dynamite or any of those because they haven't shipped. It's kind of a, you know, they had some corporate stuff and a closing of a warehouse and all of that.
Plus holidays
Plus
and yeah.
holidays, Black Friday, all of this stuff. So, all that being said, we don't have any of those books yet, and most stores in the country don't
Yeah.
have those.
Yeah, we're
either.
not the only ones.
Yeah,
So,
we're not the only ones. So as those roll in, we'll be talking about them. But you know, bear with your store, bear with us during the holidays. Things are always a little out off kilter, but we'll all catch up and it'll all go back to normal fairly soon. But that being said, I did not get a chance to read Alien Paradiso, but I'm very excited to. This is the book where the aliens arrive, or you never know when they arrive, but
there are xenomorphs there.
there's xenomorphs there, and a kind of it's another planet or a colony that is like a super elite, super ritzy, like a one of those islands that they like build that's like in the shape of a palm tree or whatever, where the rich elite go. And this it is a beach and an ocean and all of that. And what's the last thing you expect there but aliens showing up? I did get to skim through this really quick. It is very violent, like
Oh
right
yeah.
off the
Yeah.
first page.
It's funny because, Marvel makes a big deal about their Red Band books. They're polyback. Well, like this is worse than any of those.
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah.
This is chest bursters, and this is those alien tails are sharp and they can slice right
Yep,
through things.
sure thing.
So, uh, needless to say, this is not for all ages.
Not for
This
kids.
This is very. It doesn't say.
Is there a content warning?
It does say explicit content
Okay,
on it,
good.
but very small. Usually Marvel does like a big,
Yeah.
grandiose polybag type thing, like you said. That's not here, but I can't wait to read this one as well. I love the idea of aliens in different environments. I think that's a really
Yeah.
unique concept. And yeah, I believe this is just a mini series, but it is your current Alien book since there's no ongoing Alien book. So if you were reading the previous one, you'll want to jump over to this. This is where you get your next Alien story. So there is your A cover, and that is the only one I have for that one.
All right, well, I've got Uncanny X-Men number 7. I did get a chance to read this and make notes today. This is the second part of the Raid on Grey Malkin storyline, and this issue overlaps a little bit with X-Men number 8 that came out last week, showing us what Rogue's team was doing while Cyclops and his team were getting ready to go break into Grey Malkin prison to break out Beast after he got captured. But Cyclops, we see a little bit of a phone conversation between Cyclops and Rogue, and Cyclops doesn't want Rogue and her team going there, even though they also kidnapped Jubilee and Calico, who are part of Rogue's team. Cyclops doesn't want Rogue and her bunch going because he says that if too many X-Men show up, it could be an act of war. So he wants to go in with his team as like a little bit more of a night, like a focused strike team, basically. But they go anyway. Rogue's team goes anyway. She's like, "No way, they're my people are there. We're coming." And the two groups of X-Men actually end up facing off and fighting with each other throughout most of the issue, which honestly is a little bit silly because they're there to save their own people, but yet they're in the prison fighting each other while the Beast and Jubilee and Calico, who they went there to save, they just start trying to rescue themselves because the other two groups of X-Men are too busy fighting each other. It's a little bit weird that way, but both groups do stop fighting, at least temporarily, when they see that they have another group of bad guys that they're going to have to deal with, that they're all going to have to sort of put their differences aside and fight these other guys instead. So yeah, the second part of the Raid on Grey Malkin storyline, the next one is going to be in the next issue of X-Men, and the last one will be in the next issue of Uncanny X-Men, and it's pretty cool. So we have our A cover right here, and we have the Gia Russo connecting variant.
It's always one of my favorite parts of the connecting is you've got some of my favorite characters all on.
Yeah, I give me a whole series of those guys right there. We have the Marvel vs. Capcom variant with Rogue. We have, this is Mark Brooks right there.
Very nice. Always bringing good work.
Yep. And then we have a 1 in 25 Mark Brooks Virgin variant that we are selling for $49.99. That is a, yeah, 125. Yep.
It's Mark Brooks. It's very sought
Mm-hmm.
after. The last one I have to talk about is one I have not read, but you may have already read it. This is
Right.
Petpool Pool Party. Number one, this is actually a collection of the Marvel Infinite stories that involve the different Deadpool pets. So you've got Mouse Pool, Cat Pool, Dog Pool, I think are the three main ones that they go over in this. And it's just a couple of different stories involving the different pet versions of Deadpool. And I think there might be one original story
There
in
is,
here.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, they
there's
mentioned
one
it.
original story at the, I believe it's the end of it, that kind of ties everything together, or, involves all of them. So, maybe you've read this if you've got Marvel Unlimited. Maybe you haven't, but if you're jonesing for some more Deadpool, and who I think is the best is Mousepool. That's a really cute character. You'll want to check out this one. It's oversized for $6.99. So, yeah, fun one. Wintry look to it and everything. Out this week.
All right, I've got a couple more that I read, and then a couple others I just want to mention. But this is Black Lightning number 2, and in this one, Black Lightning and his daughter Lightning, they are still dealing with all of the out of control powers running rampant through Metropolis. Yeah, as a result of what happened at the end of Absolute Power. But Black Lightning's other daughter, Thunder, is still having a tough time dealing with her own out of control power. She's going through a little bit of therapy up on the Watchtower. But while all of that is going on, there is this Metropolis City Councilman who's holding a rally, and he's using all of these out of control powers as a way to set the public against metahumans, going so far as to say Amanda Waller was right to do what she did during Absolute Power. And I do feel like that the story point of humans versus metahumans will be kind of the focus of this miniseries. It does feel a little bit similar to the humans versus mutants stuff that's going on in the X-Men books right now. We're because the public in this book in DC, the public is still kind of mad at the metahumans. And then in Marvel, humans are mad at mutants for all of the stuff they did with the mutant drugs and all that stuff. So very similar themes in both books. But it's also just another really good issue. There's great art, great action, and it was cool to see Black Lightning and Lightning deal because there's crazy like temporal stuff where dinosaurs are running down the street and things
Yeah.
like that. The only thing that I kind of bugged me a little bit is Black Lightning isn't in this very much. It's mostly Lightning and Thunder and what they're dealing with. I want to see Black Lightning, right?
Yeah.
But it's still very very cool. I recommend it if if you got the first one, you're definitely gonna like this. So there's our A cover right there, and we have this Ryan Benjamin and Rain Barreto variant with Black Lightning and Lightning. And then we cannot not talk about Green Lantern number 18 because this is the end of the Civil Core storyline. It's kind of the end of the big saga that they've been telling both in Green Lantern and Green Lantern War Journal for the last year and a half. This kind of puts a nice little bow on the whole thing, so I can't say too much because the whole issue is a spoiler. I will tell you, we do get a battle between Hal and John and Guy and all the other Earth Lanterns versus Theros, who's now more powerful than ever. We also we also see Kyle Rayner. Kyle Rayner fans are going to like this. We see him fight Veron inside the Source Lantern. He's all White Lanterned out, which is really cool. While that's going on, Carol Ferris faces the entity that possessed her a long time ago. Lots of different stuff going on in this. This does kind of lead into the Fractured Spectrum one shot that's going to come out on January 8th. We talked about that on Comics from the Future, and we weren't really sure what that is, but reading this makes that make a little bit more sense. So yeah, and that's going to set up the next big saga for Green Lantern. So if you've been reading it, definitely don't miss this because this is the end of that whole thing with Theros. I believe this might be the end of the whole United Planets thing and the United Planets Lanterns. There might be a little bit of like a remnants in that in future issues. I'm not sure if they're completely done with that yet, but they're getting close. So that's our A cover right there, and we have this 1 in 25 Alarix Lee variant that we're selling for $9.99. And then yeah, so a couple more Marvel books that we didn't really get a chance to read, but just want to mention Ultimate X-Men number 10. I did read this one literally sitting right in this chair right before we recorded. It's this one's kind of there's word of the children of the atom are getting out, and like to the point where reporters are actually coming to their little compound and asking them questions. They're finding um, uh, the main character is that Himiko, right? Hisako.
He's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're finding her and her friends and asking them what to do. They're being very invasive, and yeah, so it's basically chaos is starting to erupt with the children of the atom. So definitely didn't want you to miss number 10 if you've been getting this series. So we've got our A cover right here, and we have this nice, Peach Momoko, kind of a design variant, a little bit different than what we're used to seeing out of those. And there is I don't have the artist for this one.
I love that one because it's a little bit of like a holiday
Yeah,
cover.
yeah, it's very cute. And we have this 1 in 25 Manhanini variant that we are selling for $14.99. And then just wanted to mention, I did not get a chance to read these ones. I wanted to, but we just did not have time. We have Phoenix number 6, Phoenix versus Thanos. So that should be really cool. I've been enjoying Phoenix a lot. I really wanted to read that one. We have Storm number 3 with the Uncanny X-Men make an appearance, and especially with Storm and dealing with her not so great diagnosis that she got last issue. There's more of that in this. And then if you've been reading Deadpool Team Up, number 4 comes out this week, and Major X showed up at the end of last issue, and I reckon we're going to get more of him in this. And that is it. So apologies for the lack of information on some of these Marvel books, but with the weekend that Andy had, with the way that everything shipping came in, like it's like we said the last couple weeks, it's just a little bit crazy right now, but things will work themselves out.
But hopefully you did get some information from here, and that is what we're here to do. Just a couple of chuckleheads talking about comics and trying to help you out. So you know better when you either go to infinityflux.net or you go to your local comic book store. You have an idea about what all the stuff on the shelf is all about and helps you maybe pinpoint which ones you think are best fits for you. So, like you said, we're getting into a lot of holiday stuff, but we're going to keep bringing you the videos with whatever we have in our hands at that time.
Whatever we're able to get and read in time for this show and all the other ones.
Exactly. Wednesday we'll be back with our pre-order show that we always do, our comics pre-order in a flash, and our next live show, our Infinity Flux letters page, where we're going to be talking about what is your comic book store origin story. What is the first time you went into a comic book store, or kind of what's the time you went into a store that that was it, that cemented that you're gonna be a comic fan, or your best
good experiences
that you had in a comic book store. All of that, let us know in the comments here or on our previous video or anywhere. We'll find them and we'll be talking about them and talking about your stories and our stories as well.
And we've already got some good responses to that subject. I think on our last letters page video, very excited to talk about those because everybody's story is different, which I think is really fascinating.
And we can learn a lot about what makes a great comic book store, what makes a great store experience, and I can't wait to get into all of that. So everyone be safe if you're traveling, or as just stuff is crazier out there right now. You've got 2 loving people here right now. So until next time,
see ya.